Okay, howdy. It's Friday night. Why did I say that? Why did I say howdy? The southerner in me is coming out. Anyway, hello. If I'm saying that now, I guess I'm learning, like, good social etiquette or whatever. It's Friday night, and instead of doing hard drugs, or whatever people do on Friday night, I'm sure that most people aren't doing hard drugs on Friday night, but a lot of people definitely are. Instead of that, I'm going to humor myself with Google. So I will investigate because I want to see Google's most asked questions about autism/autistic women, and I'm going to try to answer them. It should go without saying, but I'll just say it again, that obviously I'm one autistic person, and I cannot answer for a whole population of people. I feel like it still has to be said because there's always going to be that one person who's like, but not all, and I'm like, yes, I am not all, I am one. I am only one. And my primary source is being someone who lived autistic for 22 years. So I will just be citing myself. Anyway, I've been refraining from Googling all day long because I thought of this and I wanted to Google so bad, but I saved it. If I'm not entertained, then what am I doing? What is the point? I'm gonna start with a simple verb. I literally knew that these were going to be the top two. I swear to God. And I forgot to put in my predictions, but my two predictions were, do autistic people have sex and do they have empathy? I literally knew they were going to be the first two. Wow, a loaded one right off the bat. Do autistic people have sex? Short answer, yes. Long answer is autistic people, just like everyone else in the world, people who are not autistic, are all different. Asexuality exists, so some people don't want to have sex at all or have that desire. Other people just simply choose not to have sex for a variety of reasons, especially if you can get pregnant. We have very limited decision-making abilities about our reproductive health at the moment in the US. Yeah, of course, there are going to be autistic people who are asexual, just as there are non-autistic people who are also asexual. Everyone is different when it comes to sex, even autistic people, everyone is different. Disabled people have historically been infantilized, and because of that, desexualized. They're seen as people who don't want or are not worthy of having sex or being sexually desired, and it's not true. So if the question is, are there autistic people who actively want and seek and enjoy having sex? Yes, there are plenty. I can promise you that. Do autistic people have empathy? Yes. Some of us, more than we can handle, actually. And this is simply just not true. There's actually a term to kind of describe this sort of like misunderstanding that autistic and neurotypical people have, and how that plays out when it comes to communication, and it's called the double empathy problem. So the double empathy problem basically says that autistic people don't understand non-autistic people just as much as they don't understand us. So while they are perceiving our actions or responses in one way and making assumptions based on it, i.e., you have no empathy because you didn't cry when this dog died in a movie, for example, autistic people may look at non-autistic people and actively not understand why they act in some of the ways that they do. Like, why the heck are you crying when that dog died in the movie? Like, the dog is still alive in real life, type of thing. Another thing that I think a lot of people don't know is that it is not uncommon for autistic people to be hyper empathetic, which essentially means that you feel too much empathy, or you can become so overwhelmed by your ability to empathize with other people. I think I experienced this, for example. There are a lot of things that I cannot watch or listen to. Like, I cannot watch any movies or videos where a human is being hurt or tortured or beaten up or just like treated very, very poorly. Like, I can't watch it because it makes me feel physically unwell. Like, it makes me feel sick. And it affects me on such a fundamental level that, like, I will sulk in it and it is hard for me to get out of. So yeah, contrary to popular belief, a lot of autistic people are hyper empathetic. There are a lot of things that I don't feel empathy for, but I don't know if that's related to my autism or not. Another thing that's common among autistic people is feeling more empathy or feeling more connected to animals than to human beings. There are times when I won't feel empathy for a human being, but I will feel it for an animal. And I don't know if this comes from us tending to feel sort of like alien or not really feeling human or like other humans, so it is easier for us to connect to animals, like to this thing that doesn't have all of these complex social rules, and like it's just an animal and you can just like be with it and it will be with you and you're just chilling, you know? I do feel like it is easier to connect with things that don't speak sometimes. Do autistic people talk to themselves? I guess I'll just speak for me. Sometimes I do talk to myself. Actually, I am like a verbal processor. I process things by literally speaking them out loud and hearing myself say them, and it kind of happens in the moment as I'm talking about something. That is how I process. So sometimes I will literally speak out loud to myself in order to try and understand something that I don't understand and I need to like think about it. And I don't think that that's related to autism, and I think a lot of people talk to themselves, but who am I? I genuinely cannot believe that do autistic people have sex is the first search. Like earlier I told myself, I was like, sex and empathy are gonna be like the top questions, but I really thought maybe it would come like second or third. People really think we aren't out there getting it on. Like, I'm sorry to inform you, but we really are. Okay, now for an interrogative. So, let's see. Why do autistic people like trains? God save us all. Fuck. I also knew that this was gonna come. I can't answer this. Any autistic people who like trains, let us know in the comments. I personally don't like trains, actually. They're quite loud. It's just not up my alley. So if you're autistic and you fuck with trains heavily, just write us some info dump in the comments. Let us know what it is about the trains, because I can't answer this. Why do autistic people wear headphones? So yes, sometimes you will see autistic people wearing headphones that are noise canceling, and this is because one of the biggest parts of autism is being either hypersensitive or hyposensitive to sensory input, and hypersensitivity means you are very, very sensitive to anything, any sensory input, so sight, smell, sound, taste, certain textures, and noise can be extremely overwhelming and overstimulating for autistic people. Our brains actually process sensory input differently and slower, I believe, if I'm correct, which is why it is like we are constantly processing information and our brains don't really filter out which sensory input is relevant and which of it is irrelevant. So for example, if you're speaking to someone in a crowded place, you cannot just focus on what they are saying, which is what matters, right? You are hearing everything all at once. So autistic people will wear noise canceling headphones to accommodate themselves, to make their lives a little bit easier. For a lot of us, it is very, very, very necessary to function in certain situations. Why do autistic people rock back and forth? This is a form of stimming, and stimming is essentially any repetitive movement that you do with your body. It can even be vocal, auditory, but it's something repetitive. For autistic people, it can be very, very calming. It can be regulating. We can do it when we're happy, we can do it when we're sad or upset. Really, it can come at any time. It is usually something natural, like it is not something you are purposefully doing most of the time. Like, I will just catch myself like doing these things, and obviously if I'm around other people, I'm like, oh, like stop, don't do that, and it's like a mental, like a conscious effort that I have to make. at least for me, it's like it is a way to regulate yourself and regulate your emotions, and it's actually very healthy for autistic people to engage in. And attempting to get an autistic person to stop is abusive and really harmful to them in the long term, because these are natural ways that our bodies regulate themselves and respond to the environment. Okay, moving on to how. You know, very interesting. I wasn't expecting how do autistic people look. However, it is at the bottom. You just get a big flag of Sheldon Cooper when you click on it. How do autistic people see the world? That is a huge fucking question. Whoa. I think that is out of the scope of this video, so I'm not gonna try to answer that, but that is insane. How do autistic people show love? I think that I tend to try to show love in unconventional ways sometimes. For example, you'll hear a lot of autistic people talk about info dumping, which is basically like unloading a bunch of probably useless information about something you obsess over to another person. So I do that. My way of showing someone that I love or think or care about them is kind of like letting them into my brain, if that makes sense. Like, I want to share with them the things that I like and the things that I care about and the things that I find interesting and the things that make me happy. And I think maybe this is actually one of the reasons that autistic people can be seen as selfish sometimes, because we kind of live in our own world and it's really hard to like get out of that. Like, it's really hard to see things through another perspective. But I think I show love by letting someone inside of here and like showing them around, you know? I also like to do things for people that show that I thought of them or like put a lot of work into things. So for example, like making like homemade gifts or writing letters or like baking or like things that are a little more indirect. Like, I might not sit down in front of you and, like, spill out all of my deepest feelings and desires and tell you how much I love you. Like, that is gonna be much harder for me. Like, it doesn't come naturally, that type of thing. But I like to do things that show someone that, like, I was thinking of them and I put a lot of work into this thing and now I'm giving it to you. Like, just like I, like, give them a piece of my brain, it's like, here, have this. If it's something I wrote or made or did, it's like, I don't know, I feel like I am physically, like, giving a symbol of my love away. Especially when I struggle to communicate sometimes. I think that's why maybe I enjoy gestures a little bit more when I want to express my feelings. Whoa. Do autistic women have more male friends? So I want to speak from my experience. Growing up, I found it very, very hard, especially with age. The older I got, the harder I found it to socialize with girls. The more weird and alienated I felt around them. And around boys, I never felt that way. I feel like social norms and social rules, they differ by gender, and when it comes to girls, there are more like social complexities and nuances that might not be as apparent in the communication style that boys develop. Obviously, gender socialization plays a big role in the ways that we learn to communicate and express ourselves, and one of my thoughts has been that boys sort of learn to be a bit more like direct and assertive and straightforward in ways, and those are traits that sometimes tend to be a part of autism, right? Like, we have this literal thinking, we have trouble understanding social nuances and interpreting things like body language, and when it comes to girls, I feel like they are taught to communicate in ways that involve so much more of that. For me, it was also that I never really felt connected to my gender. I have always said that, like, I understand that I'm a woman. Like, I understand that I am one, and that when someone looks at me, that's what they're gonna see. and that's always the way that I'm going to be seen. I get that, but I don't feel that way. I just feel like a human being. And I think maybe this has to do with some of the like depersonalization that I feel sometimes, also growing up suppressing so many natural things about myself. You don't learn to trust yourself from a young age, or you learn that you can't trust yourself, or that you should go against your instincts when you are an undiagnosed autistic. I think for me that led to me feeling just super disconnected in a lot of ways, and even now I feel more comfortable around guys socially. I always have. I feel less like social anxiety and fear and less confusion. It is still there, but it's less. Truthfully, I feel like I don't know how to talk to women at all, and I find it very, very hard to relate to them. And this is not a quirky, like, oh, I'm not like other girls type of thing. Like, no, it is genuinely like I struggle so hard that I don't even know like I don't know how to talk to them. I don't know what they talk about. I don't know, like, and I am one. Like, it's crazy. It's so absurd. Okay, now I'm just gonna rapid fire through some of these. Can autistic people drive? Yes. I mean, at least in the US. In the US, there's no, like, law prohibiting autistic people from driving. So yes, they can, but do all of them? No. And can all of them? No. But some of us can and do. And or have to. Can autistic people vote? Yes, there is nothing necessarily prohibiting us from doing so. It's not illegal for disabled people to vote. Can autistic people have kids? Yes, unless they have infertility for one reason or another. Can autistic people be smart? So, autism is not an intellectual disability. It does not affect your intellectual state. It is considered a developmental disability, so it impacts things like your communication and your learning style and your behaviors, but it does not impact your intellect. Yeah, there is a difference between developmental and intellectual disabilities, and I think maybe sometimes people mix the two, but autism is not an intellectual disability. The last question is, what does autism feel like? And last night, actually, I found this image from someone who attempted to visualize what autism feels like to them, and I'm just gonna include that here now because honestly it made me feel so many things, and if you're also autistic, I think you will appreciate this art. And I think I'll end it there because I've had fun, and that was the goal, that was the purpose. You don't need drugs, kids, to have a good time. I'm gonna turn off the camera now and go drive and vote and have sex. And what was the other thing? Drive, vote, sex. Oh, empathy. I'm gonna go have so much empathy. I'm just gonna go watch sad movies and cry. Actually, I'll do them all at the same time. I will drive, have empathy, vote. Oh no, that's not looking too good. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now. Yeah, goodbye.